Like and subscribe right now. Or else this will be in your bed tonight. Basically he told me that he and his wife had an open relationship, and if I would be interested in dating him. Teachers of Reddit, have you ever had a crush on a student? What happened? My dad was my mom's high school English teacher. They've been married for 36 years. Didn't start dating until after she graduated. He was a really active teacher doing a lot of after-school stuff. He would film the high school football games. My grandmother, mom's mom, loved football and would have the high school team over the house after games including my dad. She told him one day, "You're gonna marry one of my daughters." My parents are 10 years apart. My mom had a crush on him the first day she saw him. Don't know about my dad. Still very happily married. I've had a couple crushes on some high school juniors and seniors as a teacher. What happened was I am a person with judgment and self-control and not an animal, and kept that crap to myself, and did my job and wished them good luck when they graduated. But if I felt any physical attraction to a student who was emotionally immature, that crap faded quickly since I am not attracted to children. A cute 17-year-old who acts like a kid is hard to see as an adult. A cute 17-year-old who acts like an adult is hard to see as a kid, but again, I'm not tempted to act on every single impulse. I have to admit that while I've had students flirt with me and let me know they had crushes, I've never been tested aggressively. If I'm ever alone with a female student, I make sure the door is open to protect myself. But if one of them said something to the effect of, "Sleep with me and I'll keep my mouth shut, and if you don't, I'll tell people that you tried to rape me," it would definitely lead to me agreeing to do something. Setting up a hidden camera to tape me rejecting, denying her, and making sure I was protected as I went forward with notifying my supervisors. It's pretty scary how easily a disgruntled student can destroy a teacher's life if they really want. I try very hard to respect and get along with all students so kids don't try and target me for bullcrap, and I also establish clear boundaries, especially with female students. 11 years into my career, not one single incident that put my career in jeopardy, knock on wood. I taught in a pretty rough Chicago public school 5 years ago, and one of my freshman students had a hard crush on me. He was a gangbanger but was so sweet. He would bring me an apple every day, always offer to stay after class to help clean the chalkboard, and even wrote me a love poem for Valentine's Day. I have to admit, he was pretty cute and I was flattered. I sucked his dick one day after class. I figured, he's 38 years old. What's the worst that could happen? I had a crush on one of my teacher's assistants. I waited until that class was over to see if he wanted to hang. He turned me down romantically, but was totally new to the area and I had a huge group of friends, so he was down to party hang. He ended up asking me about the one girl in my group who made me feel horrible about myself. Not her fault, it was my low self-esteem. Despite us being friends and hearing me talk about my super awesome, gorgeous TA, she went for it. She went out with him a few times then rejected him like it was nothing. Me and him became good friends and I'm actually glad nothing ever happened. That was one of my best college friendships and he just tore through women like crazy. Glad I wasn't one. This was back in the late 70s, but my so's aunt started teaching high school right after college. She was 21. Her first year on the job she developed a crush on this high school junior, he was 17 at the time. Anyway, they flirted and hung out after school all the time, and once he turned 18 they started dating. They are now married and have been for 40+ years. They think the story is adorable and tell everyone. As a former teacher, I cringe every time I hear it. My school used to allow graduating students to invite their teachers to their graduation parties, usually done in nightclubs. The problem is these parties are done after finals but before you've actually graduated. They stopped doing it because someone who worked in our school, not a teacher, more like an assistant of sort, hooked up with a student. I had the situation in reverse. The student had a huge crush on me. She arranged her classes, free time and extra projects so that we'd always be in the same area or room. As cute as she was, I was consistently careful and professional in my approach, keeping her at arm's length and showing her no more attention than other students. She was tenacious. But rather than embarrass her in front of peers or faculty, I took the long approach, wearing her down incrementally by maintaining appropriate even-handedness despite her overt gestures and expressions. Eventually, it worked. It was taxing for me, but I took satisfaction knowing that I didn't cause her to become the subject of gossip or mean-spirited speculation. Had this happened to a family member of mine, the student was always trying to get into her room when she was alone and close the door, which is a big no-no in the school. The student joined every club my family member runs and would follow her around until my family member left the building. Told her that she should leave her significant other because she could do better. The student couldn't even be switched out of the class because my cousin was the only one who taught that grades class since it was such a small school. I felt so bad. My cousin was exhausted and paranoid constantly because of it. She let the school know what was going on and took every precaution she possibly could. No extra attention, always another person in the room, etc., but it really took a toll on her. I wouldn't say that I ever had a crush, but there are definitely girls that are really attractive and likable. I had a lot of girls, and even a few boys who seemed to have crushes on me, but it doesn't go anywhere, because I wouldn't cross that line. I had one girl walk up to me and say, "I'ma holler at you at the end of the year," and then proceed to bite her lip in a very suggestive way. I didn't even know who the hell that girl was. I had another girl who I absolutely adored come to see me on the last day. I was leaving the school, but she was not in dress code at all. She was wearing two thin tank tops and the tiniest shorts I've ever seen. It was definitely not dress code approved, but since it was the last day she got away with it. She kept hugging me goodbye and hanging all over me, and I have to admit that I was getting a bit turned on by it. She actually followed me out to my car to say goodbye, and when we parted for the last time there was this agonizing moment of awkwardness where it seemed like she was waiting for me to give her a kiss or something. One time in the cafeteria, after I had just started teaching, I saw this beautiful teacher wearing a tight-fitting wrap dress watching over the lunch line. She looked absolutely poured into that dress, so I had to go talk to her. I went up, introduced myself and we started talking. We flirted a bit while we talked, and things seemed to be going good, because she initiated an arm squeeze on me when I made a joke. We parted after a little bit, and she walked off and sat down at one of the tables with the students. I thought to myself, that's cool, she eats with her students. I'm doing my lunch duty thing, which largely involves standing around, and every once in a while I look over at the hot teacher and we exchange glances and smiles. At this point I figure that I need to find out where her room is so I can drop by later and talk her up some more. I figure I can just tell her I'm going to make copies, and see if she needs anything run off while I'm at it. I'm in the middle of talking with one of my students, so I ask them, "What does that lady over there in the dress teach and where is her room at?" My student simply replies back, "She's in my French class, but I don't know her." At that point it clicks in my head that she's a student, and worse, that I've been flirting with a student throughout lunch. Mortified, I fled the cafeteria and hid in my room. I had another lunch duty the next day, but I couldn't even bring myself to go to it, because I was so embarrassed. When I graduated high school, I was approached by my English teacher who I had a student-mentor relationship with. Basically he told me that he and his wife had an open relationship, and if I would be interested in dating him. He had asked his wife and she was cool about it and everything. It was super weird and I basically ghosted him. He still sends me these super drawn out emails every now and then. Edit, my teacher was not inviting me to join in a three-way. By saying they had an open relationship, I meant that his wife was allowed to see other men and he was allowed to see other women. The extramarital relationships were kept separate. Also, insecure 18-year-old me wouldn't have been down for a three-way anyways. Edit 2, here's the full story. When I was a junior my mother was running away from an abusive relationship. She basically just packed up whatever we could fit in her car and we moved overnight to the neighboring state. I had to leave school in the middle of the year, so it was a rough transition for me. I didn't really fit in with the people at my new school, so I mostly hung out with teachers during lunch. It was a really small inner city high school, and most of the teachers were very passionate and invested in the students, so it wasn't uncommon to have closer mentor-like relationships develop. I ended up getting pretty close to my English teacher over the next 2 years, but I always felt like we kept things appropriate. After I graduated, I met up with him as a sort of final goodbye before leaving to college. It was just a confusing and surreal conversation where he basically told me that he didn't want what we had to die out, and that he would like to keep seeing each other after graduation. He talked about it as being an enriching experience for the both of us and so on. He and his wife had plans to quit their jobs and leave the country for a few years, so I think he wanted our relationship to be a summer fling type of thing. He told me that he and his wife had an open relationship because they often travel the world and meet all kinds of interesting people. As for considering going back and giving it a go, I really was torn about that for a long time. He really did live an avant-garde, bohemian sort of lifestyle, and I wondered whether I was missing out on some enriching and unique life experience. Like I said previously, I didn't know how to react, so when I ghosted him he started sending me all kinds of emails. At first, he was really understanding and would talk about how he would wait and let me process some stuff. Then he started to get kind of passive-aggressive and sent stuff like, "Let me know when your therapist says it's okay to meet." Finally, he sent me this really long poem he wrote for me about an archer watching a beautiful lark woman from a distance and how she was finally set free. I blocked him after that, and last I heard he's already left the country. It was just the weirdest thing that's ever happened to me. Like and subscribe for more r/ask Reddit videos.